We're about to experience the knowledge and insights of the Media Mothership.
Alright, hello, you're listening to the Media Mothership here on Edge Radio 99.3 FM. And as always, we're looking at popular culture, media discussion, and oddities around the world of media and entertainment. And I am your host, Dr. Craig. I'm trying to be as confident as I can in today's show. Because I'm just mixing up my technology. I'm just plugging a lot of things into the desk, and it's I like working under pressure. I am joined by Lord Taylor. Hello, Lord Taylor.
Hello.
You're sounding much calmer than I am. Last week I had Bliss on, who was reminding me one of the key things about being a good presenter or working with tech, any tech, right? So he's the tech support officer at the media school and a PhD student, and he was saying just stay calm. As it goes more and more disastrous, it's significant that you stay calm, because if you start losing it, then the whole thing's going to fall over.
Exactly.
Right? The talent that you've got will kind of lose it as well, and so, you've just got to stay calm, make sure you offer some water to everyone. So on today's show, we're going to be looking at some really unusual and interesting news and information that's come across my desk around pop culture and media. And
Who puts it on your desk?
The
internet.
Actually, it's a great question. My workflow is set up around various RSS feeds. So I use two. I use Feedly, and I use InnoReader.
Wow.
Which basically deep trawls. I always imagine it like one of those unethical fishing boats that deep trawls, ruining coral reefs and so forth.
And it just searches for things like on the internet and then sends it directly to you.
I'm subscribed to channels mainly.
Yeah, bomb making, how to hold up a bank, yeah.
No, the good ones. The Reddit ones.
Again.
And then I kind of curate them for shows like this.
It's curated, is it?
Well, I curate it, right? So I've chosen some really fascinating content around media and popular culture. But as we're talking on air, if you do have any points you'd like to make with the controversial material I'll be dealing with, and you can hear us, hopefully I'm not destroying the audio feed from Edge with the devices I've plugged in, you can reach out and SMS us on 0488811707, or leave a chat message in the YouTube or Twitch stream, which potentially we're also on.
Yeah. Make sure you go to the Media Mothership stream, not just any stream that you're on. We can't see it.
Exactly, yes. If you start sending chat messages just in, Dan Carlson's, cooking, we won't see it. So, yeah, do reach out to that. Participation's always encouraged and welcomed. Basically the topics we're going to be looking at today is police and technology. Got two stories on police and technology. Then video games. Basically all the rest are video games. Got a story on video games and politics, video games and sex. Bit salacious, but I don't think I need to give any warnings for that content. But that might trigger more people to listen. They say sex sells. So we're doing that, and if I can get around to it, I might play some really interesting interview with Dead by Daylight, and there's one fantastic AI story. So all that and more coming up on Media Mothership on Edge Radio 99.3 FM.
Don't let your stomach ruin your day. Listen to some refreshing Media Mothership and feel the difference.
There he goes, into that radio station. He's about to host the show. Showtime, Media Mothership. Who is it?
Dr. Craig and Lord Taylor. To most people, A radio show is a collection of sounds and words. But there's one program I know of where the hosts explore the power and influence of media on our perception of reality. Every week, they chat with creators, critics, and fans of movies, TV shows, video games, and more. In the first episode, for instance, you'll find the K-pop and cultural intermediaries interview. And in another audio adventure, you can inspect the Harry Potter or Sherlock Holmes radio dramas that are a unique creation of artificial intelligence. Don't miss these chatbot-generated radio dramas gone wrong.
That's the show media mothership. A fast-moving media analysis who tips the scales at £239. Brought to you by the Tasmanian Youth Broadcasters Incorporated, makers of Edge Radio and other fine media empires. When you overeat or eat too fast, you're looking for trouble with your digestion. That's no time to let your stomach ruin your day. Instead, try a better way, a gentle way. Listen to refreshing Media Mothership. Yes, when you're bothered by heartburn, nervous indigestion, or other common digestive disturbances, Media Mothership promptly helps to calm and quiet the upset. It settles and sweetens it. You feel the difference. Next time you eat too much or too fast, you can do something for that uneasy, uncomfortable feeling. Try refreshing Media Mothership. That's right, when your stomach's upset, don't add to the upset. Take soothing Media Mothership and feel good again. And now, from Hobart, Tasmania, Media Mothership, hosted by Dr. Craig and joined by Lord Taylor.
Okay, we're back.
Hey.
Creaky Creek. And this is Media Mothership here with Dr. Craig, Lord Taylor. Talking, as always, about unusual and odd things that have hit our desk. Now, the first one I want to do, I just want to get this AI story out of the way because it has a nice little audio piece that's there. And it's headlined, Unauthorized David Attenborough AI Clone Narrates Developer's Life Goes Viral. So this is a story from Ars Technica, and basically it's talking about a developer who created this AI bot or piece of software that uses camera to then generate a David Attenborough reaction to what it's seeing on camera.
Oh, right, yeah.
And the David Attenborough voice seems to have trained quite significantly on his voice. So there's a small sample that I'll play. It goes on. The article goes on to talk about how the developer Charlie Holtz combined GPT-4 Vision, commonly called GPT-4V, and 11 Labs voice cloning technology to create an unauthorized AI version of the famous naturalist David Attenborough. And the sample here is an example he creates where it narrates Holtz's every move on camera as he's making it. There's a short delay. And as of last Thursday's afternoon, it's got over 21,000 likes, so it's going a little viral. And I'll play now a clip. And basically he's first setting up the software, so you can't see it on radio, but he's typing in some commands, and he's talking about how he's going to then get the voice software connected to the camera to then prompt as he's moving in the video.
Here's a quick demo of what happens when David Attenborough narrates your life. On the left, I'm going to start my camera, which every 5 seconds takes a photo from my webcam. On the right, I'm going to start David Attenborough. And now, as I move around,
Here we have a remarkable specimen of Homo sapiens, distinguished by his silver circular spectacles and a mane of tousled curly locks. He is wearing what appears to be a blue fabric covering, which can only be assumed to be part of his mating display. Look closely at the subtle arch of his eyebrow. It's as if he's in the midst of an intricate ritual of curiosity or skepticism. The backdrop suggests a sheltered habitat, possibly a communal feeding area or watering hole. In its natural environment, we observe the sophisticated Homo sapiens engaging in the critical ritual of hydration. This male individual has selected a small cylindrical container, likely filled with life-sustaining H2O, and is tilting it expertly towards his intake orifice. Such grace, such poise.
So I'll put links in the show notes so you can find those on YouTube and Twitch. And it's quite a fun little experiment, but obviously it has very troubling implications in terms of the use of AI to take unauthorized voices. But as a proof of concept, I mean, again, there's a short delay between what it's seeing on video and then generating spontaneously in the style of David Attenborough reaction to. But it works surprisingly well in terms of how quickly it reacts, how it does that kind of naturalist narrative over the top of it. It's quite clever. So again, it does have even more impact when you see the YouTube of it, or the video footage of it. So again,
So I can't say it. Does the video footage look like him?
Well, the video footage is the developer.
Oh.
So it's he's just sitting in a cafe, right? Which is why in the Attenborough reaction audio you hear him talking about how it appears the subject is sitting in this domestic setting or something. Mm-hmm. So basically, it's him. Sitting like in a Zoom call, so it's as you would see in a Zoom call, he's just sitting there facing the camera. And then, as he drinks from a cup, it reacts to that, saying, look how expertly he's doing this, and mentions the glasses and so forth. So, it's quite clever as a proof of concept. And again, worrying in terms. I mean, what do you think the good and bad things of this?
The thing is, I mean, I suppose for good things, it's like any actors or vocal artists who are no longer with us, they could always come back using this technology. And then in terms of bad things, I guess, well, then it just means everyone has got an audio alibi, because people can just say, well, someone trained it on my voice. That wasn't me. Someone threatened your company over the phone. It might sound like me, but it wasn't me.
Yeah, and so I do think, as always, on Media Mothership, hopefully we're setting up the debate. I mean, in the past, maybe less so, but yeah, maybe we're trying to achieve that now.
That was very loud.
Yeah, let's just blow our eardrums. All right, well, at least it's designated a change in pace. Two stories about police and media that I wanted to talk about. The first one, again from Ars Technica, talking about AirTags, the new go-to for cops after spike in car thefts.
So AirTags are those things that, like, you chuck it on your keys and then you can find it via GPS.
Yeah, so Apple has the AirTags, and there's another one called Tile, which is useful for Android systems, and you can put it on your people use them when they lose their constantly not finding their car keys, so they'll put these little tag things on them, and you hook it up to your app on your phone, and you're able to find out where your keys are.
Do you know how that technology works? Like, how does it send out the signal?
I imagine it's because of it must be reaching other iPhone users, right? It must be triangulating through iPhone users or Android users, in this case, to kind of crowdsource a geolocation, right? I've not looked into it to any depth. But this story is using that technology that's typically used just to find your keys or your wallet, where you might have a tag or the AirTag connected to, for cars. So the story goes on, this is in America, talking about how there was this TikTok trend over summer for all these car thefts.
Well, that's a great trend.
Yeah, on TikTok, where basically these individuals were able to get around smart car technology and be able to break in very quickly to them. Anyway, it escalated with a massive number of them. So what in Washington, what one police department's done there is rolled out a pilot program a few weeks back where they've been giving free tracking devices to residents in the DC area, asking them to help them address this huge spike in vehicle theft. And what happens is they say, look, just attach them to your car, and to quote the police person, so they're saying, they're going to hand out these tracking devices, AirTags and tails, and then they'll help residents hide them in their car so thieves can't find them. And then residents can have their app available, which will allow them to find their car, right? And work with the police hopefully to find their car. So the police officers quoted as saying, "Our goal is not just to prevent carjacking and motor vehicle thefts, but also to ensure swift law enforcement action when these incidents occur. These tracking devices allow our officers and detectives to be better positioned to quickly locate stolen vehicles, recover property, and gather vital evidence for investigations." So it's a really interesting idea of a police officer giving away current tag and tracking technology with the idea of then using that to track down criminals and relocate property. Cool.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so that's a good use of technology. Now, the next story I have
is a bad use of technology.
Well, it's a bad impact of media story. So this is ABC News story. The headline is New South Wales police officer Dominic Gaynor is sentenced for pointing gun towards colleague over Top Gun Maverick spoiler.
I mean, fair enough.
Yeah. So the article goes on to talk about how, normal day in a workplace, I guess, at the start, where
at like a police station.
This was in a police station. Yeah. Yep. So the story, the journalist describes the story as a Sydney police officer who pointed his gun towards a colleague after warning him not to reveal spoilers about the movie Top Gun Maverick, and then it's been handed a 2-year good behavior bond and conviction. And it sounds horrible. So basically it was a little bit of gentle jesting, it seems, at the start of the day, where, so according to court documents, the complainant, 26-year-old probationary constable Morgan Royston, saw the Tom Cruise blockbuster the previous night and told Gaynor that morning, "I'll spoil it for you." And then the police officer who was found guilty of the offence said, "Don't spoil the movie, C word." And then he pointed Constable, Then he pointed his firearm in the vicinity of the complainant and held it stationary for 5 seconds. And 5 seconds is a long time to be looking at someone with a gun pointed in your vicinity after saying don't do something. So troubling news. I mean, definitely that idea of spoiler culture. I remember one of my, just a slight humorous tact now from this very serious story, was that Harry Potter movie where Dumbledore died.
Half-Blood Prince.
Half-Blooded Prince, right?
No, just Half-Blood Prince.
Half-Blood Prince, okay, yep. That one. Half-Blood Prince, there were this phenomenon of drive-by spoiling, where as people were queued during the launch day of this movie, people who'd seen the movie would drive by these queues and yell out, "Dumbledore dies."
Are you sure it was that?
Yeah, I mean, drive-by spoiling.
Like specifically for Harry Potter, because everyone would have read the books if you're there on the opening night.
Well, maybe that's why they were doing it as well, that they already knew this. Well, but I didn't. Yeah, I mean, you could have definitely done it for Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah,
back in the day. But yes, so there we go. But spoiling is one of those issues which some people find.
For example, one that I've definitely seen was Iron Man dies. That is the one that I saw of the drive-by spoiling. And people would they'd just be talking about something unrelated on the internet, on Reddit, something like that, and then just at the end of the post, just put Oh, and Iron Man died.
Yeah, look, and I had an experience of being spoilt for, I think it was the first Star Wars Force Awakens movie, where I was walking to the cinema to watch it in a really good mood, thinking, oh, I'm going to look forward to this new Star Wars movie, I'm really pumped. And then walking towards me was a dad, I think, and his 2 kids, right? And as they walked closer, they were having a conversation about the damn movie, Star Wars Force Awakens, which obviously they just said. And just as they got an earshot of me, they said, oh, I can't believe you see Luke Skywalker at the end. That's really interesting that they brought it back in that scene. Wow. And I'm like, oh, all right. I'm sure that's not important. I'm sure an end sequence, is pretty dull and boring and has no lead up that needs to be at all enjoyed.
Oh,
so
dear.
yeah, that was that kind of sinking feeling where you kind of talk yourself up. It's going to be okay, Craig. That happened. And I couldn't get angry.
Well, you could, but...
Yeah. So yes, that happened. I'll play this again. Let's see if it doesn't blow everyone's eardrums this time. It does.
Well, blew my
Right,
eardrums.
it's the wrong. I'm doing the wrong fader. Okay, hold on.
Are you defined by the
Hold on. Oops. Got too many buttons
Oh, dear.
in the studio. Okay, story. Topic 2 in today's discussion. Gamers on Roblox, Final Fantasy, and The Sims, and more games are bringing activism to the virtual world. So it's an article on ABC News, and it's talking about how, specifically in the light of the Israel-Gaza war, there's been protests, political protests in these otherwise considered children's video game spaces. So Roblox, for instance, there's been protests, virtual flag burnings. You're shaking your head.
I mean, wherever you stand on the issue, like, what the hell does that achieve doing it in a
Roblox
game?
thing? Look, it does show that games are not some gated community space that is outside the real world. Like people sometimes say, yeah, I'm doing this game for escapism, right? So I want to get away, a stressful day, I'm going to play my game. But it's not. It's stuck in this real world, and someone is going to possibly get political with you in that space. So my favorite story, not from here, well, not my favorite story, but the first story I heard of politics and video games was...
Warcraft?
Was it Warcraft? Where the story goes that it was the Chinese gamers in this massive multiplayer online shared fantasy game space. Oh, sorry. It's a phone call. Anyway, it could be a political point. Anyway, so in this space, they were basically they mobilized this group of Chinese gamers mobilized beforehand to commit genocide of all players that had indicated that their nationality was Japanese. It coincided with the anniversary of World War II massacre, I think. So they, even though this was a fantasy game where people's nationality didn't matter, right? There were elves and dwarves and wizards. Nevertheless, one activist community decided they would make a political protest, and they went ahead and did it, and they killed every Japanese player on the server, which I found really amusing, but would really be upsetting. Well, yes, yeah. So I guess that's a good point. Maybe one of the good things about it happening in a virtual space is that it's not physically done.
So you're
right?
saying
It's
that
not
all of our
physical
wars
violence.
should now be done via massive
Yes and
multiplayer
no.
online games?
I think there's still trauma that can happen online. I mean, I do think that there's still equivalent, those kind of shock photos that you can get sent, which can be just as upsetting. So I'm not saying it's somehow a more desensitized space, but at the same time, it's at least less physically assaulting than it happening in the real world. But obviously within that, I would strongly encourage and advise people to, behave within the terms and rights agreement, right? And the protocols for civil and responsible discontent.
But imagine how easy it would be if you just loaded up GTA 5 and you had a bridge and you had Zelensky on one end, Putin on the other, and they just fought from one end of the bridge to the other, and then whoever won got control of the land.
Yeah. Let's resolve this obvious macho competition in a Street Fighter tournament type thing.
Yeah.
Which is a perfect segue into my next story.
That's why I did it.
Thank you. So the next story is from PC Gamer. After a naked Chun-Li scandalized a fighting game tournament, Capcom sounds the alarm about PC game modding. There are a number of mods that are offensive to public order and morals, says Capcom. Have you heard the story? It's a great story.
I read through the show notes, so I know what's coming up. That's why I did specifically do the
Excellent.
segue.
So this was a story I came across a few weeks ago where it looked like I saw the tournament feed. So it was hilarious where you've got a typical esport tournament happening with Street Fighter. So it's a 1v1 martial arts game. I'm sure everyone knows Street Fighter. And the guy, before they cross to the match, he's talking about, we're in round X, and we've got two competitors, one from, I think it's China and Korea, and a bit of stats behind both of them, and they're talking about it's going to be a great match, and they cut to the match. And you see, they start talking about the non-nude character first, right? They say, okay, that's an interesting choice of whatever the character was, and then it switches to the nude character, and there's a moment of silence as the guy alt-tabs out of the game and says, I guess that's what happens in live coverage. So what it seems to have happened, though, was that this gamer had left on a mod for his Street Fighter game, and that mod happened to be one which makes the characters naked, or that has a naked skin for the characters. And hilariously, this happened in a global tournament that was being live streamed. And so now, Capcom have come out and flagged, hey, these mods, which obviously are unauthorized, and as much as mods are in many ways making games fantastic and better than their base game, and volunteer work, and can be part of its professionalization, the great story of, Counter-Strike 3, whatever, the Counter-Strike game coming from Half-Life mod.
Oh, yeah.
So this modding space is certainly a way in which talent emerges. Nevertheless, here we see a hilarious example of how that can go very, very wrong. Very wrong. Yeah, I was going to try to find that to play that sequence, but I thought, it could get me blocked on YouTube or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts about Street Fighter tournaments, nude mods?
Well, not played any of that. Or Street Fighter. The thing is with modding,
yes,
it's a very sort of difficult thing to sort of police, I guess, because you can't have it can't be political. Like if it is going to be like have political content, like a lot of them do, it has to be apolitical. Like, so for example, I'm thinking of Nexus Mods, which is one of the biggest mod centers on the internet, and they have been removing content that has exhibited sort of one side of a conflict and allowed ones that are the other side.
Really?
Yeah.
Is this real world politics?
Yeah, real world issues and politics and things like that. And so that
seems biased.
Yes.
And
I
imagine
think
the community...
if mods are going to exist, then it needs to be within an unbiased format.
Yes. Yeah, look, and again, I think it can be a healthy way to get ideas debated. It can also be a very, very unhealthy way that happens. I know there was, what is it? It's the Nazi bar rule that if you allow anyone unrestrictedly into your gaming forum, or like it's a Gary's Mod, it emerged in the Gary's Mod space, right? So what is Gary's Mod for those that don't
So
know?
Gary's Mod is a mod from some sort of Half-Life game. Pretty sure it is Half-Life 1. And it just uses all of the textures in that and creates a sandbox environment that you can basically create anything, do anything you want, And there's servers all around.
And what they found, there was an article talking about the it's a trope called like the Nazi bar trope, because it goes on to say that if you allow anyone into your community unrestricted without having to abide by any guidelines. So initially Gary's mod was set up with, go ahead, have fun. What quickly emerged were Nazis coming into it, or neo-Nazis coming into it, and basically setting it up as a Hitler tribute space.
As a previous Gary's moderator, yes.
Really? Yeah, and it's called the Nazis bar because the phenomenon that it's trying to describe is how while the person that first says, they have some views, but they'll be very discreet, their friends, who they also get into this forum space or to create content there, may not, and it quickly accelerates into a space where there's a lot of detestable content, and then you find that the only people in that space are the detestable content creating people, and it just falls over. And you get the Nazi bar. So instead of a nice bar that everyone hangs out in and has drinks, it becomes a Nazi bar.
Yeah.
And no one goes to that bar anymore because there are only Nazis there. So, it's
the
interesting.
Nazis go to the bar.
Yes. That's right. That's why it's called just the Nazi bar now. So interestingly, with modding, the same thing can happen. If there's not appropriate rules, regulations, it can just descend into something very unproductive.
So I mod Skyrim a lot.
Right.
So I've played Skyrim through, let's say, 90 times at a very conservative estimate, and every time has been with a different slew of mods that have changed it. And now I've got a VR. I've got a VR mod set through Wabberjack, which is a really good little mod, sort of automatic mod creator thing, and playing through that at the moment.
And from the base game, it's a radical change once you plug all these mods in. It really...
So big. So much of a big change. You can do things like you can start fishing. You can just sit on a lake and fish if you want. Spawn in a boat and row it
And that's
somewhere.
not in the vanilla game.
No.
You can't fish. You can't kind of chill.
But the thing about having it as the... with the VR is it just adds so much more realism to it, in that you can just sort of all of this stuff that's in the game that you wouldn't normally be able to pick up. One of the mods allows you to pick up literally anything in the game. Yeah. So
and
there's
substantial
a rock.
work.
You can pick up a rock and throw it. Throw it at Nazim if you want.
Does it inflict damage? No.
No.
And again, the thing about this that's so amazing is that this is unpaid labor. Yeah. The great thing is it often gets recognized, right? I mean, again, it can be a way in which talent emerges. In fact, it's interesting you mentioned this because I bought a game recently specifically because I wanted to play the mod. I didn't want to play the base game at all. It was a Crusader...
Street Fighter.
I walked into that one. Yes, Street Fighter. I saw this tournament. No. Crusader Kings 3, right, which is set in medieval Europe and the Middle East. But there was a mod that sets it in the Japanese Sengoku period.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been watching this YouTube about it, and there's a new Nobunaga's Ambition game, which looks really good, but there's not a game that has that RPG dimension that I've wanted, like Crusader Kings 3, and I thought, great, I'll pick this up to play the mod. And I'm thinking, wow, what am I doing? I'm actually buying a game for a mod that erases the original and maps out a completely different game. And again, it's from the ground up, reworking it in terms of the animations and so forth. So it's amazing where we're at.
It is, yeah.
Talking maybe what's less amazing is our base urges, which can occur within this environment. So now we are entering into the sexy time area of the discussion. I don't think I need a language warning for kids.
Language warning.
Okay, let's do it. Anyway, so this is from Polygon. The headline is Baldur's Gate 3's latest patch is bad news for sex speedrunners. Lizel no longer drops pants in under 2 minutes. That's a really crudely... Again, I'm not the writer of that. It's quite crudely expressed. Yes, in no way reflects the interests of Media Battleship Rage Radio.
Just of Craig Norris.
No. I didn't write this one. Okay, so do you know the game Baldur's Gate 3?
I've heard of it. I've played the first Baldur's Gate, but I didn't know. I haven't played the third one. I knew it was out though.
Okay, well you've got more knowledge than I do. What I know, it's like an RPG fantasy setting game.
Yeah,
You've
yeah.
got elves and humans and
Dungeons
orcs,
and Dragons, very much
yep.
like that. Yeah.
So first definition is what's Baldur's Gate 3? Yeah, RPG fantasy. What's a speed run? Do you ever done a speed run?
Yeah, of course I have.
All right. So what is a speed run then for our listeners?
To compete with other people to complete either a game or a level in a game as fast as you can.
I've never done a speed run. What are the speed runs you've done?
I've done a Skyrim speedrun.
And this is, what's the challenge, to actually complete the entire game?
To complete the
or-
entire game.
Wow. What did you get down? Hours?
It
Days?
was a couple of hours, yeah.
Yeah.
But quite a few people have got it down to minutes. I think 29 minutes might be the lowest one that there is, something like that.
And this is a game that typically is days, weeks of commitment.
Yeah. And but they use glitches. A lot of times speedrunners use glitches in order to progress further in the levels. So, for example, in Skyrim, if you pick up a bucket and jump and hold the bucket, you can basically just jump up the side of a mountain, up to the top of the mountain.
Wow. Because it glitches into the polygon of the mountain or something,
Sort of
and
thing,
suddenly
yeah.
you can travel up.
And sometimes there's only one specific space that you can go into. A big example of that is with Super Mario, the first one that came out of that, and people that do speedruns of that. There are specific pixels that you have to stand in.
Pixels. So we're talking about like millimeter by millimeter.
Millimeter by millimeter pixels.
Start.
And if you get in there with the right sort of thing, and of course they want to do it the first try, because then that means that they're the fastest in the world. Once you get into that little pixel, they can sort of like clip through. There's one particular level of Mario in which if you go into it, it's at the start, and you clip down into the ground that's underneath it,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can just run along through everything to the end, and then just jump up into the.
So that's
jump up on the other side of the flagpole and then go backwards and then forwards again.
So that's a speed run that literally compresses a game that takes many hours into many seconds almost. All right, so that's a speed run. So this one I've not heard about. Have you heard about sex speed runs before?
No,
All right,
and I wouldn't care to look it up.
Yeah. So this one basically, I hadn't realized this was the case. What's interesting to me is the kind of arms race between this subset of gamers. So basically, in this role-playing game, you can have you can romance characters, and so some gamers decided that's their challenge. How quickly can they romance this particular character called Lae'zel? And so there's all this discussion, and I think the article goes on to someone got there in 1 minute 58 seconds, right? So what's interesting to me is less that that's happening, but more that then the game developers see that and say,
we're going to patch that out.
Yeah, that doesn't fit with how this game should play out. And I agree in terms of narratives of romance. So they patched it out so that now, to romance this character previously, you still need to do various feats and have stats at particular levels. You need that, but then you need to, achieve particular goals which can only be unlocked in a particular order. So a fascinating discussion there. But then, so that was, when was that article? That was November 3rd. And then 10 days later, IGN website got another article about Baldur's Gate 3's sex speedruns. There's another one called the Bear Sex Speedrun, which is even more troubling, because I guess the first one was ogre that you're speedrunning a romance towards.
An ogre.
This one is a bear that you're speedrunning a romantic relationship towards. So there was this whole discussion around this subculture of speedrunning sex, but then also, because it's in a fantasy setting, the bizarreness of it. You know, they got the voice actors involved in that and I'll play the opening reaction to it. Oh, will I? No, I'm not going to play that.
Oh dear.
It's not playing. That's fine. Yeah, so they're the voice actors on to comment on what this sex speedrunning thing is about. So yeah. There you go. Are there mods for Skyrim that we should? Sexy time mods.
Probably.
Yeah. It's a troubling world we live in.
I mean, that's the thing with Skyrim. Pretty much everything that is possible to be modded into it.
What's the rule? Rule 34 or something? That anything that has a sexual narrative to it will have a sexual narrative to it.
Okay,
Rule
that's
something.
cool. No, I'm thinking about with Skyrim, you can mod in Thomas the Tank Engine.
Really?
Yeah. You can change all the dragons to be Thomas the Tank Engine. You can change all of the Jarls to be Shrek.
And, you know, it is amazing because I remember playing Doom back in the day and enjoying some of the early mods there. The Simpsons mod, I think it was a Doctor Who mod. So the Simpsons mod turned all these monsters that you're battling into, you know, Homer and Bart, that then still explode and die as you're wiping them out. So it's a wonderful juxtaposition of things that usually aren't there. Very, very odd.
One of my favourite mods is no longer being made.
Why is that? What is it?
Because it was an obscure Chinese made mod, and nobody sort of like it was made for the old version of Skyrim, and now the new version is the one that's everyone's making mods for, special edition, and it was never ported over. So
what did it used to do?
It allowed you to cook recipes, but as a follower of Namira, who's a god within the game, who is the god of cannibalism.
Oh my gosh. Oh wow, so these were recipes on eating people.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, yes. Well, and again, it's interesting because, obviously, so what's interesting here, again, a couple of mods that we've talked about. So the Street Fighter mod, as soon as it brushes up against, I guess, legal concerns they would have for a G-rated game being modded with adult content, or unethical, illegal behavior like cannibalism.
But that's what I guess it's sort of because it fits so well into the narrative of the game as well, because you've got these Daedric princes who do all of these horrific, horrible things, and you can choose to either defy them or to join them. Like one of the first things that I always do in Skyrim is join the Dark Brotherhood, who is the people that go around murdering people.
Well, there was a research article I remember reading about why most gamers in games where you can play
as a good or bad,
still pivot good, right? Mm-hmm. Even though the game potentially, you would think from the outside, has more escapist, wish-fulfilling fantasy through a bad trajectory than the good one when you're still abiding by rules. Nevertheless, in reality, most people find more comfort in the good guy narrative.
Would that still work in Skyrim though? Because I cannot think of any single YouTube stream that I've seen where people haven't started attacking the hold guards, who are like the police of the state, basically.
Yeah. Oh, it's interesting. Yeah. Well, and again, maybe that's the broader discourse around the meaning of police these days, having changed or being questioned. Because I mean, it's like change there was an honours student I had who did a research project on why you can't play as Han Solo in video games. That often video games only give you a choice of playing as the very good character Luke Skywalker or the very bad character Darth Vader, but you can't really play a morally ambiguous character that's changing between stats, right? That often the stats, if you're min-max towards extremes, right? You've got to commit to one pathway.
Yeah, that's true. Because you either go for the character who's the strongest or the one who's got the biggest defense, not the one who's the jack of all trades.
And you're punished by staying in the grey area, the grey zone. I think Red Dead Redemption similarly will have a point system where you can, you get various increases to your stats if you're playing as a good cowboy, and equally you get different stats, different abilities if you play as a bad. But if you're in the middle, you don't meet any of those benefits, and you can't play as Han Solo, so that that kind of morally ambiguous character.
I guess that's where games like Elden Ring are good, because it doesn't matter what you pick or who you do or what stats you have, you'll always get killed by the next character that you come across.
And is that more due to the fact that you're playing against other humans?
No, it's a single player.
All right. Because
Elden Ring's part of the Dark Souls.
Yep.
Extremely difficult game. I downloaded it and couldn't get past it and got deleted it. It's too difficult.
Punishing. Because the other thing this was reminding of, the Han Solo dilemma, right? So, research saying that most people play as good guys, and most games that are RPG based kind of skew towards good or bad character min-max narratives. It is interesting when you don't have the good and bad point system, and you just allow gamers to play a game, and then how the game falls over because of it. Mm-hmm. There's the case of one of the Ultima games where basically gamers figured out that they could get good stat rewards by basically committing genocide on various animal species. What's it called? Extinction. Basically causing the extinction of various animal species, get their skins, and basically you can get your points up. And the game designers didn't realize this, and what they created was a whole ecosystem where, like, the lower space animals, the rabbits or something, were the food for the next level animals and so forth, right? So a very complex ecosystem, and they had the gamers in, and the ecosystem just was breaking down because gamers were just min-maxing the fact that, yes, it's a grind to kill all these rabbits, but the result per time effort is better after 2 days than doing all these quests. Similarly with DayZ, where the gamers had a very well-balanced... It's a zombie game, open-world zombie game, where the gamers had a very carefully balanced kind of health spawns and loot spawns and weapon spawns, but then the gamers, because they didn't know each other, weren't really playing the game cooperatively. They were all playing PvP and killing the humans and spawning... Or what are they doing? Like the spawn campers, killing the newbies, and basically the game didn't play as a zombie game anymore. It played as a kind of Fortnite game.
Right, yeah. So they
against what the DNA of the game is meant to be. Anyway, so we might set up next week a little discussion of transmedia and Dead by Daylight, which is a horror video game around horror characters, because I'm keen to... There's a really interesting interview with the designers talking about how they took these iconic characters, Michael Myers from Halloween, the Alien, and they had to try and work within the character's ability, and then make it fit within the game requirements, and how that worked and didn't work.
So basically they just got all of these villain monsters from franchises and tried to stick them together into a game.
And what's interesting is, the game is a melee based, so it means that if they've got a monster that is range based, it breaks the mechanic. Anyway, we'll talk about all that next week. Coming up next, though, is K-pop Unlimited.
Not really.
Let's get us excited about that. What's something exciting you can say about K-pop? Is there any Gangnam Style?
No. Do you want to just keep talking about other stuff that you've got, or play something? Because I did not bring my USB today, so I can't play any music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what? So we'll go to a short break.
Yeah.
And come back on Media Mothership, Edge Radio 99.3. This is Dr. Craig Lord Taylor.
And this is a horse.
Around Hobart City and in the territory out west, there's just one way to handle the media and the spoilers, and that's with a radio host and the sound of Media Mothership.
Mothership, the story of media power that spread globally with young Australia, the story of a DJ theorist who moved with it, Craig Norris, PhD.
Duffy's Tavern, where the elite meet to eat. Duffy ain't here, but Archie is, and he's got a special treat for you tonight. He's hosting Media Mothership, the show that brings you the latest news and views from the world of entertainment. And now, here he is, the man who knows everything about showbiz, Archie.
Welcome to Duffy's Tavern, where the beer is cold and the talk is hot. I'm your host, Archie, the man with the plan and the brain with the string. We've got a show for you tonight that'll knock your socks off and make your head spin like a top. So sit tight and loosen your belt, because we're about to serve up some verbal vittles that'll leave you licking your lips and scratching your head. We've got a mixed bag of guests tonight, from the high and mighty to the low and flighty. So grab a cold one and settle in, because it's gonna be a wild ride here at Duffy's Tavern.
Right.
You're not on.
You're listening to Media Mothership here on Edge Radio.
It's like actually you've got all three microphones on, so I can talk over here, and then they'll talk over here, and then talk over here, and then talk over
We
here.
are audio magicians.
Wow.
Audio something. Terrorists, maybe, sometimes.
I'm going to use both, yeah.
Thanks for listening to Media Mothership on Edge Radio. The main points and takeaways from today's episode. I think the pros and cons of technology. So we did the police stories. We had a good police story about police giving AirTag tracking systems to citizens to help them find cars that have been stolen. Bad, because then we also had police using that authority to stop people spoiling movies by pointing guns at a fellow officer.
But that said, spoiling movies should be like a criminal offence.
I would like to set that up as a new show topic next week.
Okay, sure.
Because we talked about the possible Dumbledore spoiling and other spoilings that we've experienced. So there's that. Then we had the discussion of sex and modding, and some hilarious moments of speedrunning. But the troubling implications that raises. And look, in a way, really, if you're doing a sex speedrun, it's not about kind of engaging with the sexuality of it, the idea of romance. It's more just the mechanics, right? It's more just, it reminds me of this article talking about how this adult was watching a teenager play GTA, and it was a particular taxi mission in GTA, and he was watching this teenager play it, and he was controlling the taxi, and he was hitting pedestrians, knocking them over, and the pedestrian would get up and then get in a taxi, and the teenage gamer was doing the missions. And afterwards the adult was talking to the teenager, saying, you were really violent in that game. Why were you hitting the pedestrians, right? The NPC characters. Falling into that trope of, yes, violent game, violent teenager, this is all bad media effect. And what was interesting is the response the teenager gave, which was just that, hey, the taxi mission is a real pain to get through. The easiest way to do it is to hit the NPC characters, because the AI is so badly coded that the NPCs don't react as if they've been hit. They get back up, they quickly get in your taxi, and you get to finish the mission really quickly. And that was kind of important, because what it's revealing is that while you might think the gamer is being violent by doing this, the gamer isn't reading their actions as being violent. They're reading it as exploiting a dumb AI mechanic.
Yeah, and a big part of it is that sometimes teenagers can come up with excuses really quickly.
No. I would like to be optimistic about this, and that teenager was displaying a clever lateral thinking and not simply being violent for the sake of being violent. Anyway, so I think that's what we've taken away from today's topic.
I've certainly taken it away.
Thank you. Next week, we're going to discuss probably the Dead by Daylight game. Maybe we'll get into that David Attenborough.
Yeah.
See what that turns in. We'll have
I'll download it and see if I can
in the
do something,
studio.
yeah. We'll
have David Attenborough discussion of our stream in the studio.
That'd be good, wouldn't it?
Probably. Yeah, great content. I think our content's fantastic, of course. But yeah. So you can listen to previous episodes on YouTube, Twitch, and edgeradio.org.au, or your podcast provider of choice. You can find Dr. Craig and Lord Taylor on Facebook and Instagram and all the socials. Spotify, yeah. What's the name that you're going under Spotify?
My name.
Don't you have a artist name?
No, that is my artist name.
Oh, Taylor.
Lidston, yeah.
Lidston, great. Okay, you can check that out, Taylor Lidston.
Listen to my songs.
Listen to songs. Keep listening to Edge Radio. Coming up next is Edge Radio. And then Adrian's You Can't Sit Down. We've got the fundraiser gig on Saturday night.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So,
tomorrow?
Yeah. You sound surprised.
Yeah, I didn't know it was coming up.
Okay, yeah. It's literally there at the poster. So it's November 18th at Alta. Tons of great bands are going to be playing. It starts at 4. Rock up. It'll be a brilliant live show, so well worth going.
I'm pretty sure I said I was going to go to that. I'm not going to go to that.
No, you should.
I can't.
You can donate still, though, to Edge Radio. So for our fundraiser, head over to the website and...
what's the website?
Give a donation. edgeradio.com.au.
Oh, no!
Is it? What is
no.
it? edgeradio.
It's written up there.
.org.au. Bugger. edgeradio.org.au.
There we go.
So head over there, make a donation. Great news was we hit the 20k goal yesterday through generous donation. And so now I think we're doing a stretch goal, right? 5 more K maybe.
Yeah, well, the more money you give, the better equipment we get.
Oh, totally.
And the more that we can do with it.
We could definitely use that. I mean, I could definitely use any help I can get for the show. All right, so keep listening to Edge Radio. More great tracks and news around the corner. This has been Media Mothership. Dr. Craig, Lord Taylor. Oh, gotta get this going. Saying bye to Lord Taylor. Any final words?
Goodbye. That is my final word. Let's go around the corner.
Check our website for more information about Edge Radio turning 20, edgeradio.org.au.